Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a piece of history that often gets forgotten. It's this moment where a global war crashes right into a small local community here in the Los Angeles harbor.
Exactly. And our mission today is to really unpack the history that inspired the novel Pearl Harbor Shadows.
Hmm.
We're talking about a single day in December 1941 that just, laid bare how fragile things were.
And the human cost of that suspicion.
A huge human cost. The author is Val Usley, and his background is, I think, what makes this book possible. It's this incredible blend of military service and deep storytelling experience.
Right. Val spent 20 years as a chief warrant officer in the California State Guard, and that ran parallel to his 40 years as a Disney Imagineer.
It's that mix. He heard the seeds of the story during his initial training, and you can see how that military experience plus the storytelling instinct helped him build a plausible world around the few facts we have.
And that's really the core of this, isn't it? History often just leaves us with, well, fragments. A briefing note here, a mention there.
Just shadows. And the novel, the fiction, steps into those shadows. It's not trying to replace the truth, but to follow a plausible path guided by what we do know, the geography, the humanity of it all.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Where did this all happen?
We're on Terminal Island,
Mm-hmm.
specifically Fish Harbor. At the time, it was home to the second largest Japanese community in all of Southern California.
And the whole place was dominated by the canneries.
There are canneries on one side, and right opposite them were the homes for the Issei and Nisei families. The Issei were the first-generation immigrants who basically built that fishing industry.
And they had over 200 fishing vessels in that harbor.
hmm And one of those was the Fushimaro.
Okay, so what kind of ship was this? Why was it important?
It was one of the bigger ones, a U.S.-flagged longliner captained by Nisei. These ships were built for distant fishing, going way down to Baja. It had range.
Which, in the context of December 1941, would have been alarming.
Exactly. Internationally, tensions were at a boiling point. The U.S. had hit Japan with a crippling oil embargo. There was this pervasive fear in Washington of saboteurs on the West Coast.
So this large, capable fishing vessel, the Fushun Maru, ties up at the Tanaka Cannery on December 6th, the day before the attack.
The timing couldn't have been worse. The second the news from Pearl Harbor breaks, the Coast Guard immediately sees this ship as a threat. It's Japanese-built, it has range. Is it part of the Imperial Navy's reserve fleet? Is it carrying agents?
And the regular army, the National Guard, they weren't there?
No, they'd been federalized and shipped overseas. So the defense of this major U.S. port fell to the California State Guard.
An organization that was, what, not even a year old?
Stood up in January 41. Their pre-war mission was simple: guard local infrastructure, bridges, rail yards, the port. But the reality was, they were seriously under-equipped.
Undermanned.
Mixed uniforms, personal weapons sometimes. They were doing the best they possibly could. And historically, the units cited in the records, F Company and D Company, they would have been the ones available for this mission.
So the Coast Guard is overwhelmed. They don't have the manpower to seize a vessel and detain a crew.
So they make the call. And this urgent mission falls right into the State Guard's lap. Seize the Fushun Maru, secure the crew.
And that's the moment the story ignites.
That is the crucial moment. The State Guard convoy arrives on Tuna Street. They meet the Coast Guard officer to coordinate the boarding. And right there, that's the collision. Duty, anxiety, and this incredibly fragile line between order and chaos.
It just highlights how suddenly the war became real for people here. A global conflict landing on the doorstep of a small community with volunteers having to make these enormous decisions.
And that really brings us to the final thought for you to take away. Given how few resources the State Guard had and how desperate the Coast Guard was for help, you have to wonder, how many of these forgotten corners of homefront history depended on ordinary people, ordinary citizens stepping up with little more than patriotism in mixed uniforms? Thinking about that reveals just how fragile order really was in those first terrifying hours of the war.